Welcome back to the Death Row and Executions channel. I am Paco Rivera. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates and more death row news. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. Also, check out my other channel here on YouTube called The Maximum Sentence, where I cover recent crimes and convictions. As you may know, with these death row cases, we're talking about crimes sometimes committed 20 years ago or more. So there will be a link in the description below for The Maximum Sentence as well. I hope everyone out there enjoyed the holiday season, and I'm glad that you are joining me here on this channel for the start of a new year. As I have been doing every year with the first video of the year, I'm going to take about a minute or two to briefly recap the outcomes of scheduled executions of the year before. In the year 2024, we had a total of 30 scheduled executions, and a video profiling all 30 cases appeared on this channel. Now, as I mentioned last year, if a scheduled execution got canceled before I had a chance to create a video, that does not count here as a scheduled execution. There were times during the year that I looked at a name on the list of scheduled executions, and when I looked again a week or two later, that name was erased. It was gone. If I'm not mistaken, the state of Ohio around the beginning of the year had a bunch of executions scheduled in that state for 2024, and suddenly all were canceled. Reports showed that Ohio has had problems obtaining the drugs necessary for the procedure. By the way, it does look like Ohio now has the drugs necessary, because it appears they're planning to clean house of their death row units with 26 executions scheduled over the next 36 months. That's almost one every month through the year 2028. Anyway, as I said, there were 30 executions scheduled in 2024. Of the 30 scheduled executions, 5 were canceled for various different reasons. Some people used the word stayed in these cases. Execution got stayed. I prefer canceled or halted. This means that 25 executions were carried out during the past year, and those death row inmates were executed in 9 different states. Alabama had the most with 6, Texas with 5, Oklahoma 4, Missouri 4, South Carolina 2, Georgia 1, Utah 1, Florida 1, and Indiana 1. If there are no changes, the first execution of the year 2025 will be Marion Bowman Jr. in South Carolina on January 31st. There are 30 inmates currently on South Carolina's death row. That includes Marion Bowman Jr. and another man locked up in California for a crime that he committed there. But he was sentenced to death for a crime in South Carolina and is considered as one of their death row inmates. Dorchester County in South Carolina includes the Charleston and North Charleston areas. Marion Bowman, who turned 44 years old last June, went to high school in Dorchester County along with the victim in this case, Kandee Louise Martin, and the two were well acquainted with each other. When questioned, Bowman even said that he was having an affair with the single mother of one child. He was married and also had a child. According to reports, on February 16 of the year 2001, a Friday, Marion Bowman was in a car with his sister on their way to get something from a pharmacy in Branchville, South Carolina, when he spotted Kandee Martin with some friends outside of a house. At the time, Kandee was 21 years old and had a young son. Bowman was 20 years old. Bowman got out of the car to have a discussion with Kandee about money that she owed him, according to him. Now, Bowman would later say that the money she owed him was for drugs, though we don't really have proof of that. Apparently, Bowman was not happy with how the discussion went with Kandee, and when he got back in the car, Bowman told his sister that Kandee will, quote, be dead by dark, unquote. In other words, by nightfall. Bowman would also later say that he believed Kandee was wearing a wire installed by authorities to get him in trouble. Sometime later that Friday evening, Kandee had driven to a home where it just so happened that Bowman was having drinks with some friends. At some point, Bowman got inside Kandee's car and he asked his cousin, James Gadsden, to also get in the car. Bowman then directed Kandee to drive, and he ended up taking her into a secluded area near some woods. Both Kandee and Bowman got out of the car, and after exchanging some words, Bowman began shooting at her. The cousin, Gadsden, would later testify that Kandee was pleading for her life, saying, "Please don't shoot me. I have a child to take care of." But Bowman continued shooting anyway. Bowman then dragged Kandee's body into the woods and drove her car back into town, telling his cousin not to talk to anyone about what just happened. Bowman then spent several hours cruising around in the car and visiting other friends that he had picked up. Some of those friends would later testify that Bowman had bragged to them about killing Kandee Martin. At one point during his cruise around town, he even tried to sell Kandee's car. When Bowman's attempt to sell the car failed, he asked a friend named Travis Felder, who had a car, to follow him. It was now about 3 o'clock in the morning. Felder agreed and followed Bowman to the location where Kandee had been killed. He watched as Bowman went into the woods, dragged the body back to the car that Bowman was driving, Kandee's car, and then placed the body in the trunk. He then lit the car on fire. Bowman got into Felder's car and they left the scene. The fire department was called out to the car on fire where the body of Kandee Martin was found in the trunk. It was now the early morning hours of Saturday, February 17 of the year 2001. With so many people involved and talking, and the threats that Bowman had made, by that Saturday afternoon, the murder was already linked to Bowman and he was arrested for murder. Some reports indicate that he was also linked by DNA because his DNA was found inside Kandee's private parts, which appears to indicate that at some point during the evening before, the two had also been intimate. Both the friend, Travis Felder, and the cousin, James Gadsden, were also charged with lesser crimes in relation to Kandee Martin's murder. Both reached plea deal agreements with the prosecutors. Felder was sentenced to 3 years imprisonment, which became 3 years of probation for being an accessory after the fact. Gadsden, who was present when the murder occurred and fled from the scene along with Bowman and never bothered to report what he had seen, was sentenced to 20 years in jail. Not much is known about the victim, the life of Kandee Martin, except that she was 21 years old, grew up in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and had a son named Tyler, who was born in 1999, making him 2 years old at the time his mom was killed. He is now 25 years old. Please remember to hit the subscribe button for more death row and upcoming execution stories so that you are alerted when the next one comes out. You can also follow me on Facebook for updates. There will be a link to my Facebook in the description below. My name is Paco Rivera. Take care and bye for now.